Welcome back to your number one source of inspiration for this generation. You already know it's Eminem Live Radio. And Meah, it's the moment we all have been waiting for.
Yes, as you guys know, your girls are not foreign to interviews. We're always great to be able to, we're always good for talking to people. And we usually frequent artists, of course, definitely in the CHH space. But we're looking to take a different approach. Meesa and I are just really driven on wanting to highlight the stories of people that we feel like will impact people.
Absolutely.
Not saying that artists aren't impactful, but just saying that there are also people who live lives that can speak to the lives of people that are currently living. And we have a woman who has a phenomenal story, and we're so excited to have her on Eminem Live Radio. We want to welcome Mikaela Patterson.
Mikaela!
To the show. How are you feeling, ma'am?
I'm good.
How has your 2025 been so far?
It's been amazing. It's felt like a fresh start. It's felt like we started off fasting and praying, and so it's felt like a fresh start, and so that's what I'm believing for.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, first off, I have to thank you and commend you for being on this show, because you have such a story of redemption. But before we get into all of the contents of your life, the story, the deliverance, all of those things, you are a mother, you are a wife, you are a warrior, you do ministry through your life. What's been happening in your life just currently?
I mean, I have 3 kids, so that's
full time,
constant, 24/7. We own a cleaning business, so I run that from kind of behind the scenes and everything. Scheduling, and then occasionally like all clean. And then we have a ministry called Break the Cycle that Aaron runs, and I kind of help him with that. And so, I mean, that's
juggling
the gist
life
of, just living and trying to be faithful, and
I love that.
Things.
What's it like having the rhythm of balancing motherhood, wife, ministry, entrepreneur, like that? Like, honestly, it seems like you handle that so well. What has it been like balancing all of those different things?
That's funny, because I don't feel like I handle it well at all. Like, I feel like I'm still learning to juggle and balance and to do it well. And because I feel like when you excel in one area, then another area, it's off balance. And so I'm just still learning, just one step at a time, one day at a time, and just trying to just do it all well. So
So I want to make sure we have plenty of time to get into the story. So I was talking to you off air, Mikaela, and you made a post on social media back in 2022 on your birthday.
Yeah.
And it's where you shared a series of photos from your past, your childhood, that reflected a lot of hurt, pain, and even portions of the abuse that you had endured growing up. Is it possible for you to share a little bit of that story with us today?
Yeah, of course. I don't even know where to start. So basically, when I was like 5 years old, my mom passed from cancer, and I grew up in a family that loved Jesus. My mom and dad were constantly like in church. I basically grew up in church Wednesday nights, Sundays, Sunday nights. They were in like the choir. They did performances, just very heavily involved in ministry. And so I'm sorry.
Take your time.
Yes. I was very, like, I knew the Lord from a young age. And so I think I was like 5 years old when I have this memory of just like literally still being in a crib and just talking to Jesus and feeling his presence in my room and hearing him talk back to me. And so like, thankfully, like my parents, they nurtured that from a young age and like made sure that like I knew who the Lord was, and constantly just talking to people about Jesus. They would talk to our house cleaner about Jesus. And so that was like something that was instilled in me from a young age, thankfully. And so I had that knowledge of who the Lord was. And then, like I said, my mom passed from cancer when I was 5. And my dad and her had a mission trip lined up, and he was like, okay, like, I'm not gonna not go, you know, like, I'm still gonna go. I'm still gonna go on the mission trip. And so then he takes me and my two sisters overseas. And so we're literally on the mission field, like, as a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old with my dad.
Wow. I can't even get through Target with my 3-year-old and 1-year-old. Wow.
Yeah. So we're the Philippines, Jamaica, and New Zealand over the course of like a year and some change. And I didn't know it at the time, but he told me later, like, was so suicidal, which makes sense. Like, I can't imagine, like, now being married and having kids, I can't imagine just like losing my husband and just being left with my, like, that's a lot. It's heavy. And so he said at the time was just suicidal, like, in ministry, and just doing the best he could. But anyways, we come back to the States, and everyone's kind of pressuring him, like, get married, like, you need to get married, your kids need a mom. And so he does that, but he does it quickly and not in a godly way. I think he was hurting, obviously. And he ends up marrying this woman that he met and marries her within like 2 weeks of meeting her.
Oh my goodness.
And she's from Brazil, like, very seemingly like friendly, and but she was not, and had a whole bunch of childhood trauma and everything that she obviously didn't heal from. And for the first, like, gosh, I don't know, how old was I when they got married? I was like 7. So for the first like year-ish, like, everything was like amazing. I was just so happy to have a mom. Like, she was such a like hands-on person. She did like activities and games, and we'd put on like skits, and like it was just like fun. And I feel like I had like what I craved in like having like a mom finally. Sure. And so it was beautiful. And then all of a sudden it was like something just shifted, and I became like her enemy. And it was like she just started blaming me for everything. Like, I feel like when I think back, like, the first thing that ever was like kind of like just disarray was like, we would have like these family meetings all the time, and one day she's like, okay, we're gonna have a family meeting, like, everyone come talk. We're in the living room, and she's like, so like the picture of my mom, it's missing and I can't find it. Like, we have to search the house. Like, that's the only picture I have of my mom, guys. We have to find it. So everyone searches the house, and then they find it in my purse. And so then I get blamed for that. And then that kind of starts like the series of like this whole like topsy-turvy, like, just like a movie of like, Mikaela's crazy, basically. Like, I mean, knives being hidden in the house. Like, at one point, I remember literally going to school, and my parents came to pick me up. And so we were at recess. And so I don't know, for whatever reason, the teachers went through my book bag, and they found a knife in my book bag. And Angela literally had, I'm sorry for context, that's my stepmother's name.
Okay.
Had, I don't even know. I mean, I did dishes, I guess, like, got my fingerprints on it from that. And literally, like, I'm like, well, how old would I have been? Like 8 years old, have to go to the police department, have to get fingerprinted. And so she painted this whole picture, like, to my dad and everyone, that like, Mikaela's crazy. Which now looking back, I realized like she was trying to discredit me from a young age. So like when I ever did speak up, no one would believe me, because I was always the more like of my siblings, like, I just had like this heart for justice, and like I was gonna tell you if something was wrong. I was gonna tell you. I guess you could say I was like the tattletale. Like, nothing would get past me, and so she had to discredit me from a young age. And so things kind of started like that. It was just really like I'd get blamed for a lot of things. Like so she painted this picture that I am literally like crazy to my father, and so she would tell him that he'd be gone working and then come home, and she would tell him like, Mikaela, yelled at me, or Mikaela was disobedient or whatever. And so he'd come home and like, and discipline me and everything, and rightfully so. But, it got to the point where like that got so bad that DFAC started getting called. And so he was like, you know what, like, that's it. Like, I'm giving up. Like, and he was like, I'm not about to like tear my family apart over this, like whatever. He kind of just like gave up in his mind, wrote me off as crazy.
Just so taking her word. You,
gave up as me. Yeah, gave up on me, like not her. Cause yeah, like just gave up on me, wrote me off, basically was like, okay, she's crazy. You're doing all these crazy things, which mind you, he never saw me do any of them, but that's his wife, right? Like he doesn't have a reason to not believe her. I'm not saying, hey, I'm not, because granted, I'm terrified, but, and so he kind of just writes me off. And so that's important to note, because people always ask me, well, how didn't your dad know? Like, he wrote me off, travels all the time, gone for work a lot of the time.
This is at 8 years old.
This is currently like at 8 years old. And then, so it kind of like opens the door for so many other things, because he cares less. He's not really present and around. And so now, since he's not disciplining me, Angela makes my stepbrother, John, kind of, I guess, do her dirty work for her, if you will. So anytime like she feels like I'm disrespectful, which for context for disrespectful would be literally like she would throw these extravagant parties for our birthdays. And I remember one time literally being like, can I have a cupcake? Y'all, I'm 8 years old. Like that's a normal thing, right? That's what toddlers, I mean, not toddlers, that's what kids do. Yes. Like they ask for snacks. We were just talking about that earlier. Right. Like, they always give me this, give me this, I want this. So I'm like, can I have one? And she's like, no, you can't. Go to your room. Literally, like that's like the attitude. Wow. She just has this extreme disdain for me and always kind of singled me out for my siblings. I think like deep down I annoyed her, but it's like, yeah.
No, are you the oldest, or are you? Where do you fall in the siblings?
Okay, so that's important context I left out. So there's me and my two sisters, and then my sisters. I'm trying to think how old they are now. I'm the oldest of my two sisters.
Gotcha.
And then Angela had two kids as well. John, my stepbrother, was older than me, and then Hallie is like in the middle of me and my other sisters, and then my stepmom and my dad had a child together.
Okay,
so he's the youngest. So yeah, so I'm like the second oldest in of all of us, all six of us, and I don't even remember what I was saying.
The birthday party, you asked for the cupcake, and she sent you to your room.
Yes, and then she sent me to my room. So it'd be like little things like that. Like that was disrespectful. Like, you know, you're not supposed to ask me that. Like, you know, but like little things like that would, in her mind, be something that required like discipline. So then she'd leave and she would tell my brother like, to beat me basically. Like in her mind, she was like, this is discipline. And so from literally like a young age, like she's telling him like, your dad's not, you know what I mean? Like, he's not being a man. He's not disciplining. I need you to step up. I need you to do it. So it started off like that. And then just over the course of like 9.5, 10 years, just got really, really bad. It would be like, it would start from things like that to then now it's like, she'd slowly strip everything away. Like, you can't watch movies. If I see you watching a movie, you're going to get beat for that. Like, if I see you, if you go to the bathroom, like, without permission, you're going to get beat for that. Like, then it's, you can't eat. You can't eat. You can't have food. Y'all, when I tell you I would literally go for, like, weeks without food.
Weeks.
Which I didn't realize was humanly possible, but it is.
So your siblings are eating?
Like, yes. So they're,
you're
like...
the only one not eating?
So she singled out me and my sisters, like, my dad's biological kids. I always kind of like, she just had this extreme disdain for me for some reason. I think because I looked like my mom and she had like this jealousy. I don't know, but also like, I feel like there's spiritual things definitely. Absolutely. Like, and so they also were being abused and had it bad, but it was always kind of worse for me. So it started with me and then she gradually like also moved down to them as well. And so, yeah, like literally like wouldn't be allowed to eat for like weeks, and literally like had no privacy. At one point I was literally like handcuffed hand and foot to a chair in our playroom at the time, and yeah, and then I would get beat if I went to the bathroom on myself. It's like, what do you expect? Like, you know what I mean? You're not. Yeah. So yeah, it was really bad for a very long time. I was like physically abused, sexually abused, and yeah, like it was really intense, and I was literally like constantly just crying out to the Lord, like, save me, like, why aren't you saving me? And she would tell me, like, she'd paint this picture in my mind that, like, I'm the problem, like, you're doing something wrong. God doesn't want to save you.
Yeah.
And so that really messed with, like, the way I saw God. And I literally just remember crying out to him every night, like, can you just save me, get me out of this? And then one day, the Lord just spoke to me and was like, I want you to stop asking me to change your situation, and I want you to ask me to change your mindset, change the way that you see, and ask me to give you eyes to see. And it was like, when I prayed that, it was like it instantly happened. It wasn't like this thing that I had to like wait for this prayer to be answered. It was like I received what he wanted me to receive in that moment. It was like this instant joy and peace, and the situation didn't change, but I changed and my mindset changed, and I had this peace and this joy, and that was unshakable. And it was like this understanding that like you're harming my body, but like you can't take me. You can't take my peace and joy because you didn't give it to me.
Wow.
You know, you didn't give it to me. God did. And so, yeah, everything shifted when I got that revelation. Everything ended when I was 18. Okay. I was about to turn 19 because my birthday's in November. It ended in August of 2013. Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to ask you this. So, with all of this happening and you being just about, I mean, you were a child when your mom passed away. You said even before that you were going to church. Y'all had this really strong faith. Like your parents instilled great, strong faith values into you and your sisters. That was the thing. That was your faith, even as a child, that you were able to hold on to even get you through this difficult, I mean, depressing abuse. Is that what was able, is the hope that you had and that you tethered to even when you were a child what carried you through into your deliverance? Really?
I absolutely, like, I believe that it was. Like, I think about that a lot, honestly. And I'm like,
Because for somebody to have, for someone to be so young and for someone to be such, or for a person like your stepmom to have so much power and control over young Mikaela's life. Like you cannot have a Bible. I would assume that, did y'all go to church often? Okay. I would assume that at that point, because you're facing so much darkness, so much trauma, so much drama, that there's something and within that journey of darkness that would have caused you to lose your faith. But it's a switch that went off that caused you to hold on even closer to your faith. What was that day like that you heard and felt God speak to you about changing your perspective?
Yeah. You said, what was that day like? Honestly, like it had been kind of like this, I guess, domino effect, if you will. Like he had been just whispering to my heart and like, I think preparing me, preparing my heart, because it was like I was starting to feel just like I had been in a relationship with the Lord, but I had started to feel like more peace and just like this, I don't know how to explain it other than just like this stirring, like, and drawing me closer to him. And I just, it was like weird. It was like even just through him saying that, I felt like I don't know, like there's some prayers that you pray that they take years, months, you know, it's forever. But it was like he said that to me. He gave me that revelation and I prayed it and it was like I had already received it. Wow. I don't know if you've ever experienced that. Because it was like I was coming into alignment with his will and his prayer for me. And so it was like this instant shift of like just peace and joy and realizing that like it doesn't matter like what it does, but it's like in the spiritual realm, it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter what they're doing. Like it doesn't matter. Like, okay, you're going to kill me and then what? And then I'm going to go with you and be with Jesus. You know what I mean? It's like you can't you can't kill my spirit, and like, or I shouldn't give you that power to take the joy that you didn't give me. Like, no,
Right.
you know what I mean? So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does.
but yeah.
In that moment, when you felt that shift in your perspective, especially
Mm-hmm.
spiritually, did you automatically feel like you were able to forgive your stepmom?
When, like
Like
what do you mean?
when you said that the Lord was
Yeah.
whispering something in your spirit
Yeah.
for you to change your perspective on that current situation at the time, were you able to also receive the fact that, okay, I also need to forgive her too, or was that something that happened later on in your life?
Honestly, I'd be lying if I said that I was able to immediately forgive her then. Like, as I was walking through it, like, forgiveness wasn't. It honestly was such a weird dynamic of, like, in the back of my mind, I always knew that I was, like, being abused. I don't know if I would have labeled it like that. I knew this isn't right,
Okay.
like, with the morals I had. But, like, I don't know if y'all have heard of Stockholm Syndrome. Like, it was like she was my abuser, but she was my best friend. It's hard to explain. It was like she made me feel like so isolated, like I'm the only one you can trust. She was the person that would starve me, but then she was the one who would come bring me food when I'm literally feel like I'm about to die, right? So it was like, or she would tell my stepbrother, like, beat her for this long, for 30 minutes straight or whatever, and then she'd run in and be like, stop. So it was like, you're the one who's like coming and acting as like my savior, right?
Yeah.
And so I didn't, I wasn't, I definitely hadn't forgiven her then. That was something that literally, if I'm honest, like I'm still walking out.
Yeah,
It's like
absolutely.
a process. It's like, okay, like I've forgiven you. I don't feel resentment towards you. Like I genuinely wish you the best and pray for you. But then I'll wake up one day, because mind you, this is like years and years and years and years of hundreds of thousands of events every single day they're happening. And so it's like, I'll wake up and I'll have another memory and I'll be like, okay, I forgive you for that.
Wow.
Or I forgive you for doing that to my sister. I forgive you for that. And so it's like, it's this, for me, it's been like this process and like in some ways a daily choice of like laying down like my will and laying down like my flesh and like what I might feel and being like, no,
Right.
like I forgive you. I forgive you. So
What did it look like? Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
What did it look like? Because you're the oldest,
I
and
am,
it's
yeah.
not just you who was getting abused. It was also your siblings. So you hearing that, and
Yeah.
you have faith because you heard God, but also they're still going through that. How did you encourage them, share faith with them, edify them to keep, so they can keep their faith up as well throughout that traumatic situation?
Yeah. So throughout that time, we literally couldn't talk. We couldn't communicate. So like most of the period of this time, I'm literally like locked up in a room. So like I hardly see them unless like I'm helping my stepmom like clean a house or something, or like I rarely see them. So honestly, like it wasn't until like close to the end of the abuse where I had more interaction with my middle sister, that we were able to just have conversations and just like encourage each other. And I just remember just having conversations with her and being like, it's going to get better. And like, this isn't the end. And like, as long as we're breathing, like there's hope, you know what I mean? And, but honestly, for the most part, it was just praying for them, honestly,
Wow.
just being like, Lord, like protect them. And like, yeah.
Do you remember if there were any faith disciplines, spiritual disciplines? Because you said you had an early relationship with God.
Yes.
So
Thank
that
you.
kind of is what anchored you and kept you
Absolutely.
calling out and kept you keep asking him to help you.
Absolutely.
And there you're able to hear him. During that time after you heard him, you had to live it out now. And I can't imagine with the struggle of the situation you're in right now, and then faith. That's just, I guess that speaks the definition of faith. Can you remember or recall any spiritual disciplines, scriptures, faith mindsets that sustained you to that time while you were still living with your stepmother?
One thing that the Lord would constantly play in my mind, and mind you, I didn't have a Bible. I would somehow go find it and get it back, and then she'd take it. But like, I remember writing, and y'all, I'm not gonna sit here and act like it's in Romans, but be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. That would go through my mind constantly. And then I think is it Genesis 20? You intended to harm me, but the Lord intended this for my good, for the saving of many lives. Like that, that was more so after, but the Romans verse, like be joyful in hope, faithful in affliction, faithful in prayer, that, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer, that was constantly like in my mind. And even just, even though I didn't understand everything, knowing that like, I know he's good. That never, I'm like,
Wow.
I know that you're good.
That's awesome.
And even if I can't explain why this is happening, if it will ever end, like there was just this deep knowing of like, he's good. And so I have to trust him. That means that there must be something I'm not seeing. I always had that. And by his grace, I always had that. Yeah.
Man, I was gonna ask you, is your father and your stepmother still married?
No.
Okay.
Thank God. No. They got a divorce like when I finally told him everything that was going on.
So he had
they got
no
divorced.
idea.
Oh no.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No. Because he wrote me off in his mind. So he did know, he knew that I was handcuffed because, which I give him grace for, because even though it was very wrong, like I give him grace for, because in his mind, he thought that I'm schizophrenic and I'm going to go kill everyone in the house. That's what she told him. Right.
okay,
Like he's
okay.
like, this is me keeping my family safe because she's crazy. She could pop off at any moment. I mean, she brought a knife to school. That's in his mind, right? Taking her word for it. So I give him grace there, like, even though that's not how I would have, like, I give him grace. But no, he absolutely didn't know that I was being starved, that my stepbrother was harming me sexually, physically. He had no idea.
Okay.
That, which goes to show, like, it's a whole nother conversation, but, like, how real the spiritual realm is and how we literally can be blinded to things. So
What does that, what did that healing process like? Well, what was that healing journey like for you? Like the moment you took that first step to making decisions to heal from all the trauma.
Yeah. I mean, it's been just like what you said, like it's been a journey. It's been like a variety of like getting in therapy, like having conversations with people in safe spaces, and like lots and lots and lots of time with the Lord, and like just allowing him to redefine who I am and not like, like literally simple things like writing out like, okay, these are the lies, and like, all right, Holy Spirit, what are you saying? And I'm still healing, you know what I mean? So it's definitely been a journey, but
So when I'm trying to, I really want to follow this journey, because I'm thinking of when you're living with your stepmom, all this is happening, and then afterwards, did you go to college? Did, like, when you were 18, did you move out? Like, when was the moment where you left physically being there, and then also, were there any remnants of that trauma, like that you saw followed you? Were those scars were still left there from your childhood?
So I lived with my dad in that same house actually until I was, when did I move out? 25. That was when I got married, and we actually initially lived with him there for a little bit and then moved. And I'm so sorry. You asked me how. Can you say that?
Yeah. How when was it that you left your parents' house?
Okay. Yeah.
And then when were the moments where you realized that man, the things that happened to me when I was younger are still affecting me today, even now being 25 in your 20s later on?
Okay. No, I think I immediately realized that, because even when everything ended, even when the abuse ended, I still, like, in my mindset, I was still so bound. And so I still am, like, picking up and listening to, like, you're trash, like, you're ugly, no guy's ever gonna like you. So then I ran to, like, the world. Anyone who's like, you're pretty, I'm like, oh, bet. Like, it was, like, bad. And so I think that, like, for a very long time, the Lord had to, like, rewire that. And even, like, being married with 3 kids, like, years later, like, I'm still realizing, like, the toxic mindsets and just, like, all sorts of, like, jealousy issues and petty fights that my husband and I will have, where I'm like, that's not, like, what, like, where I, like, step outside of myself and I'm like, that doesn't make sense, like, this is, you know what I mean, like, this is traumatic thinking. So, like, it still happens, like, yeah, it's something that I'm just over time, like the Lord's walking with me through and helping me heal.
What has that looked like for you being a mother now?
Yeah.
Because thinking of the example you had and trying to like navigate what it looks like to be. Well, I can only imagine being the complete opposite of what your stepmom was, but still doing that from a place that's not hurt and damaged in a sense, and being whole and healed. Talk about what the healing's been like, even to this present day.
Honestly, like that's been like the biggest area that I've really been trying to guard is like my motherhood, because I didn't have a positive mom. I didn't have really a mom for a while, and then like a positive, healthy one. So that's been something that I'm like, okay, like help me to not lash out like in my anger, like to not sin, because I'm really aware that that's something that is in me, and that's like a cycle now, like in my family, that like I have to break. I can't allow it to continue, and so like just allowing the Holy Spirit to help me, like in, you know, when I get angry, to not lash out at my kids. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does. We're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to talk about what therapy was like for you. And then there were some themes in your childhood that I feel like will really speak to the Christian faith that I think a lot of people will be able to get from that. So don't go anywhere. It's Meesa and Meah here from, you already know, it's M&M Live Radio. We have Mikaela Patterson here, and we'll be right back. And you're back with your girls, Meesa and Meah from, you already know, it's M&M Live Radio. Shout out to everyone that's tuned in on all podcasting platforms. We're so appreciative of you being locked in and tapping in with us. Listen, man, we're talking with Mikaela Patterson, who's here, and talking about her story and her testimony of just overcoming childhood trauma, abuse in every shape, form, and fashion, and just what it looked like for her to heal throughout her lifetime. And now we're kind of sitting in like present day healing.
Absolutely. So Mikaela, because right before we went to our break, you know, we talked about how you are a mom of 3 beautiful boys. You are a wife. And before we get into, you know, the depths of your redemptive life, you know, like everything that God has brought you out of, I wanted to ask you from mother to mother. I have 2 girls. With you having the stepmom that you had growing up and dealing with all of that abuse, were you initially receptive to the news of you and your husband Aaron being pregnant with your first son?
To be honest with you, I think initially I had to kind of mourn almost a little bit, as bad as that sounds, like if we're being transparent.
Yeah.
Because one, it was like he was a honeymoon baby.
Okay,
So
got
on
you.
another note, like y'all, imagine coming home from your honeymoon and taking a pregnancy test and realizing like, oh wait, my life's not ending, but like it's about to end. Like, so selfishly, like if I'm being honest, I was like, man, like thankfully we were like best friends before, so I felt like I knew him, but I'm like, I didn't feel like I got to know him within marriage.
Okay.
Before having kids and then having 2 more. So, does that answer your question? I feel like there was another part to your question too that I missed.
I wanted to just go into, like, you know, when you first got the news, you started thinking to yourself, or having thoughts of, am I going to be a mother good enough? Am I going to you know, fall into different patterns that my stepmother showed me? You know, I was wondering what that thought process was, because I know that you had an amazing mom before your mom passed away, and then going into this Stockholm syndrome cycle of having your stepmom. I was wondering what that initial emotion was when you looked at that pregnancy test and saw that it was positive.
I think it was a mixture of like determination of like, I am not going to be anything like her. Like I was determined. I'm like, I'm not going to be anything like her, but also like a little bit terrified. Like, wait, but what if I am? Like, what if I am? Because generational stuff is really real. And even though she wasn't like my blood mom, like that was still the home I was raised in. And so I knew that I was well aware there's toxic mindsets that I was going to have to literally break off. So it was a combination of like determination and fear at the same time. Yeah.
What were some things that you have learned or even are continuously learning? Because being a mom, you're always learning different things about yourself, about, interacting with your kids, and even coming out of that dark time in your life. Is there anything that you learned about yourself, whether it's that you're stronger than what you know, or, different things of that nature? Was there anything that you've learned in motherhood?
In motherhood about myself. That's a good question.
If you're still learning, I
Yeah.
mean, that's
I think-
that's something too.
Honestly, yeah, I think I am still learning. Like, nothing pops out at me necessarily.
Okay, got you. So going into having this awesome wedding between you and Aaron, and coming back home from the honeymoon, finding out that you are 9 months away from seeing your beautiful baby boy. Talk to me about Aaron, and shout out to Aaron Patterson. Shout out to Aaron Patterson. He's another good friend of ours. Also a Christian hip hop artist, an amazing influencer, positive role model, a influential speaker. What was that like? You guys coming together, meeting each other, becoming friends. Like, take us to the day you met him.
So I met Aaron at a ministry school in Atlanta. It actually does not exist anymore.
Okay.
But I met him at a ministry school at what they called campus days. Like we went for like 3 days to kind of like test it out, and like just like there's worship, there's prayer. It's just kind of like a sample, I guess, if you will, of the ministry school. And then we both ended up going there the following year, and so I met him. We became like best friends, like strictly best friends. Like literally, it was so pure. Like we would just sit in the car and talk about Jesus for hours, and it was like not weird, like at all. It was literally just such this genuine friendship. And he actually liked one of my friends. I liked one of his friends. We would, sorry y'all, all my mom alarms.
You're fine.
I've got a gazillion. Brush your kids' teeth.
Yeah,
Time,
right.
don't forget.
I understand.
Yeah, and then we just we got really close. He liked a friend of mine, I liked a friend of his, and we would actually talk about like how our friends were like tripping and like what was we'd sit and talk about that, be like, it's your friend, like, what's going on? And then it was kind of like all of a sudden he started flirting with me, and I'm like, whoa, what's going on? No. I know you're like my brother, like you don't understand. Like,
so what was that like? Because I know a lot of girls can relate to when you have a guy friend and y'all are friends.
Yeah, I was like, no, like you're my brother.
The guy switches. So like, what went through your mind, like when he started flirting and things like that?
I think I was confused at first. I was like, my wheels were just turning. I'm like, I'm confused. I'm like, I thought we were like, you like, I remember, like, sorry, I probably shouldn't say names, but like, no, y'all know, like, what's going on?
Yeah.
You can edit that out if you want.
Yeah, we got you.
Like, yeah, I'm like, we're friends. Like, what's going on? I think I was just really confused. And then my second thought, which is always, like, probably should have been my first, is like, okay, Lord, like, but what are you saying? Like, I was like, all right, if you tell me like that this is, because I've always been, especially in the dating field, I've been like, all right, Lord, like, what do you want? Because I know I have learned that my will, it doesn't get me anywhere good. Like I've learned that already. So like, I was like, okay, Lord, like, what are you saying? And I felt at the time, I felt like he was saying, stay away from him in that way. Like, literally just keep being his friend. So I was like, Aaron, no, like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm not interested. And then, but what happened is, and this, I guess, is where the toxicity from my trauma would come out, is I was like, not interested, but then there's a part of me that I'm like, when he would show interest in other people, I'd get jealous. I'm like, but I thought you liked me though. Like, so why like, what?
The games begin.
Yes. Yeah. And then I'm like, I don't like this. Like, this is toxic. So knowing that this is toxic, but I'm like, okay, if you don't want him, then like leave him. Like, it's okay. Like, just be his friend and like but it became very obvious that like we couldn't like be only friends, because then it was just weird. It was like all of our fights were about why we weren't dating. And so I'm like, okay, this is just toxic at this point. We had a beautiful friendship. Now it's just weird. It's toxic. And so I was literally, we just got to this point where we're like, we can't be friends. And so I'm literally crying out to the Lord because I didn't want to lose him as a friend. So I'm literally crying out to the Lord. I'm like, God, like, I thought you told me to stay away from this man and only be his friend, but like, I can't lose it. So like, I need you to tell me. Like, I need an audible, like,
Yes.
what do I do? Do I walk away or do I, like, what do I do? And I heard like this very, very clear like voice in my mind. Mikaela, what is the point? What is the point of marriage? And I was like, to draw each other closer to you and to reflect the relationship we have with you. And he's like, okay, well, does Aaron do that for you? Does he make you more like me? And I was like,
Wow.
yes. And he's like, okay, so go for it. And it was just like this instant peace and this instant veil was removed of where I saw him as a friend. I was like, oh my gosh, like you're cute. Like, like it was weird. It was like, not that he was ugly before, but it was just like, he was my friend.
Right.
Like, oh my gosh. Like, wow. It was just this instant clarity. And then it was like, boom, games were gone. There was peace. And then it was like, we started dating in December of 2018. And then literally, the summer of 2019, we got engaged, and then we got married in October of 2019.
Wow.
So it was like, once the peace was there,
Yeah,
like,
everything just fell into
it's all-
place. Now,
yeah.
when you shared just a few moments ago that you were friends, really good
Yes.
friends before getting married, had he already known about your traumatic past? Okay,
He did, yeah.
okay. So he was pretty receptive. What was it like sharing those tough details with him?
He didn't know like right off the bat, but like I remember as we were in ministry school, there's only like 80 people there, so we all kind of like knew each other's stories. And then one day we're just like, we're sitting at this basketball court, like we're sitting down and we're talking, and I was friends with like a lot of the guys, and they're all just kind of like, wait, why have we never heard your story? Like, what's your story? And I'm like,
Yeah, right.
okay, like we're doing that. And so I just kind of prayed about it. I felt peace and I just shared my story. And honestly, that's one of the most like healing and monumental moments when I look back, is seeing how like a bunch of grown men reacted. Like I didn't realize my heart needed that. Like there's something that's like so beautiful and I think not talked about enough about like safe men. Like
Ooh, talk
that's
about that.
like if I just feel safe in your presence,
Yes.
it's not weird, it's not awkward. I don't sense that you want anything from me. Like, wait, you care about, like, it's so, oh my goodness.
I'm telling
Like,
you.
just, we
Matched.
love a safe man.
We
Like,
love a safe man.
And so, like, in the purest way. But, like,
Yeah.
literally, it was like these three men that were, like, my best friends in that ministry school. Like, one of them punching a wall, one of them sobbing his eyes out, and the other one just, like, I hope I can say this, but like almost cussing under his breath. Like what, how? Like,
Yeah,
what do
how
you
could
like?
this happen?
Like, I don't understand. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't get it. It doesn't make sense, like knowing you. And so, that was such a healing part of my journey. Seeing how he responded.
Yeah,
to that
and how
the other
awesome
guys.
is that for God to put you in such community, you know, where in that moment, only in the moment in the past, your dad wasn't physically there to protect you, you know, to fast forwarding to recent past where there were young men that were able to cover you spiritually and stand up for you righteously and justifiably, to now even like super current times, you have now 4 young men that are going to live their life protecting you as mom, protecting you as wife. In one of your captions, I read that you said motherhood and marriage have both been such huge ways of healing for you. Could you talk about that for a moment?
Yes. I think because marriage-wise, I didn't really see a healthy one modeled out. My mom was so, or I was so young when she died that I didn't get to see a lot of that dynamic. And then obviously it was very toxic between my stepmom and my father. So that's something that I didn't really get to see played out in a healthy way. So being able to have that and to have like, again, like a safe man has been so healing. And then just being able to be what I didn't have, what I didn't get, like I think just shows like the Lord's grace, but also that it's like him through me, because literally everything I know is screaming and yelling and violence and like being calm and like holding back, like it doesn't come naturally to me, because it's like let's be honest, it's like what we see is that's what we repeat, you know. And so I don't know anything different than that. And so just being able to be what I didn't have, it's weird how it's like, it sounds so weird, guys, but it's like it heals the little girl in me that didn't have that. It's like I'm mothering myself, as weird as that sounds, and almost like I have another opportunity to be a little girl again and to have a childhood, but also making sure that they have like a safe childhood and a joyful childhood.
Wow.
It's so healing.
Man, what a story. Meah, I know that you and I and Mikaela, even offline, off the air, we were talking a little bit about how important Jesus in therapy is.
Yeah, I thought that was just so key. And I'm so happy that you highlighted that, only because we're never going to negotiate the power that comes with the name of Jesus, that comes with being in relationship with Jesus and having community, praying, fasting, everything, literally everything. And I also believe that there's so much power, additional healing that comes with going to therapy. Were you always receptive? Like, did you want to go to therapy? Did someone present it to you? Like, what was your thoughts on therapy before you went?
I think initially I was a little skeptical, but then as I was like, okay, can I trust this person? Like, this is like, it's really vulnerable. This is a lot to share with someone that I don't know, that's essentially a stranger. But honestly, it was like, once I started going, like, I felt instant peace in it. It was truly so helpful. And I think I went to therapy for like 7 years. It was a long time, guys, but it was very helpful.
Good for you.
And
That's awesome.
in what ways did it help you heal?
I think one thing in particular, I don't know if y'all have heard of EMDR.
No.
But it's where people do it different ways, but there's like a machine, and I don't even remember. I'm not good with like science or like the way behind it or whatever, but I just know that it's like you list off a memory, and basically it's weird how like every memory is connected to that. And so it's like this domino effect of like, or like in your mind, it's almost like you see a train that's like passing, and it's like, oh, wait, that's connected to that, connected to that, connected to that. And it goes all the way back to like a mindset you had, or an event that happened when you were like really little, that you're still affected by. And that in particular was like really, really, really healing for me.
What would you say to those believers who say that therapy, you can't have both? You can't have therapy and Jesus. You can't have therapy and pray. You have to pick Jesus over anything, and therapy will not help you. Yeah. What would you say to those believers who would think that?
Well, I think that we're being religious, if that's like the mindset. Like I can understand it, but I feel like Jesus literally, like the Lord literally gave us these resources, right? Like he gave us these resources, and I think that it's literally like community in a way. Like we're told to be in community, right? And like therapy, it's like it's you think of it as like utilizing your community. So I guess like for a believer who you might think like, okay, this isn't biblical, or like we're supposed to go to the Lord for everything. It's like view it as like you're walking through life like in community and allowing people to like walk with you. If that makes sense. Yeah.
When do you feel like you reach the moment feeling comfortable sharing your testimony, not just with family or close friends, but even maybe someone else who may be needing to hear your story?
I think it's definitely been a journey. Like I think early in the beginning, I was like, I just had no like wisdom when it came to that, and I would just like immediately when I started dating someone, I would just tell them, and I look back and I cringe. I'm like, what in the world? But like, I just hadn't healed enough to know. And then it got to where I'm like, okay, like, don't throw your pearls to swine, where I really had that wisdom of like, okay, who do I share this with and when? And like, there has to be a why. Like if it's not fruitful and it's not bringing the Lord glory, like it's literally just, it's more, I think, heavy than anything. And it's just glorifying the enemy if there's not like a reason. Wow. Because it's heavy. It's a lot. It's dark. And like, if I'm just saying it just to say it, there's no point. And it's kind of what I was talking to you guys about earlier, where it's like I literally feel like I know in my spirit when it's right or not, because it's like it either feels like peace and like the Lord is pleased, or it feels like I feel like something was taken from me. Like, you hug someone and sometimes it just doesn't feel right. I'm like, I feel like something was just taken from me. Like sometimes it feels that way. So it's just been something that I've had to like discern.
Yeah, I think that's wise.
Yeah, if I could add to that, first of all, I want to be the first, and I think I speak on behalf of the entire M&M Live Radio team when I say, Mikaela, I'm so proud of you.
Yes.
Because I know when you first came in and we asked for you to be a part of, sharing your story, if you were willing to do so, and of course, knowing the contents of everything that just took place in your life, those are personal core memories for you that you are willingly sharing to people. But this was your first kind of like interview, your first on camera recorded opportunity of sharing your story. And I just simply want to say thank you for trusting us. Thank you for trusting our online audience. And but one thing I am excited about is that I hear that there is a possible Mikaela Patterson book that is to come to bookshelves. And I am so excited to even read something that you have produced. But what has that journey been like, being now Mikaela the writer?
It's been a long journey. Like the Lord literally told me, 7 years ago to write a book. And it was like I couldn't escape it. I was like, okay, yeah, maybe it's I'm hearing voices. But like I would literally go to a church service and the pastor would literally be like, write that book, like in the literally like in his prayer, or like I'd meet someone and they'd be like, I think you're supposed to be writing a book, like you're being disobedient, like direct, like. And so I finally came to terms with like, okay, I'm supposed to be doing this. And so this is the year, like Aaron's like, we're getting you an Airbnb, where I'm gonna watch the kids, like you're gonna sweet. Like you're locking in, you're doing this. And so this is the year. It's gonna be finished this year. I'm speaking it. So,
yes,
but yes.
And I cannot wait to see what God does through that book. And lastly, I think I just want to ask you that if there's anyone out there that might be going through a difficult time in their life that might mirror what you went through, what lasting thoughts would you have to share with them?
I might cry. That he sees you. That he sees it all, and it's not insignificant, and he sees your pain. He not only does he see it, but he feels it with you. I got this image one time of him literally holding my hand, taking every beating with me. That's no matter your situation, like he's literally going through it with you. And I know he says he catches every tear we cry, but I really think he cries with us. I think he mourns with us. I think he feels it with us. And you're not alone. He sees you. He loves you. And as hard as it is to accept at times, like, he's good. He's still good. Like, don't let it change how you view his character. Don't let Satan strip that from you. Like, trusting that he's still good through the midst of it. And he loves you.
Mikaela, thank you so much for your authenticity, for your genuineness, for your heart, for the pure. Like I just feel so much lighter after I talk to you, because to hear a story that's so deep and so heavy, but to hear your process and your thought process and your everything that you kind of were going through, and every ounce of strength that it took for you to endure and even push past that, to see you be the woman that you are sitting with us today, it truly is a testament that God is good, that God is merciful, that he's not going to leave us nor forsake us. And even sharing what you just shared with somebody, I believe it just saved somebody. So thank you so much for even sharing that. If you can just give everyone your social media or any way to stay in contact with you, you have the floor.
Okay. To be honest with you, I don't even know my social media handle, so I can tell y'all if y'all want to link it. But it's Mikaela Patterson on Instagram, Mikaela Rebecca Patterson on Facebook, and
Yeah.
And we'll link all of those in the description.
Absolutely.
Your Instagram and everything. And once again, I'm just echo everything Meesa said. Thank you.
Yeah.
For not even just for being here, but for being faithful throughout your journey. And all those things led to this moment where so many people are going to be so inspired and just be able to have hope in the midst of their trials. So thank you for all of that. And thank you for everyone tuning in. We appreciate every listener. We hope it impacted you. As always, it's your girls Meesa and Meah here from M&M Live Radio signing off. We'll see you guys next week.
Love y'all.